Hey everybody, my name is John Zmickley. I'm in the Digital Media Innovation sequence here in the School of Journalism and Mass Communication at Texas State University. I met some of you on our Skype call the other week, but I also want to just introduce myself to those of you who I haven't met yet and just let you know what you'll be learning in this module. It's all about virtual and augmented reality and how it's used for storytelling specifically. I started teaching this about a year ago. I taught a one-credit course and I was really impressed with how students reacted to this new form of storytelling. And now I'm teaching a 3-credit course in the School of Journalism on virtual, augmented, and mixed reality. So it's pretty exciting, and I'm excited to meet all you guys when you come down for the boot camp. So the first thing we're going to talk about is virtual reality, and I know you guys have already done some reading on this, but I want to kind of go through some examples and some definitions with you guys. So first, what is virtual reality? As you read, it's a simulated or virtual environment that completely encapsulates the viewer. So the viewer has a visualization or some kind of experience where they feel like they are in a totally different environment than they were before. So this would be if they had like a headset on and they suddenly were on Mars, or they looked through a 360-degree video and suddenly could see what it's like to be underwater. That is fully immersive and taking someone from where they normally are into a totally different environment. And with virtual reality, there is a spectrum that ranges from least immersive to most immersive. So on the very least immersive side of the spectrum, you have just a smartphone watching a 360 video. And that would be what they call the magic window, where you can hold the phone around and you can look in different areas of a video, but you're still very much aware of your surroundings. You know that you're not really in that environment, but that you're peeking kind of a window into that world. And then you have the most immersive side, which would be something like the HTC Vive or the Oculus Rift or the Go, which are actually tethered in most cases to a very strong computer with high processing power, and you are able to walk around a space and get a sense of it. You can see the guy has the headset on and he's got controls in his hands where he is actually manipulating the environment that he's in. And many other very immersive experiences include even things like sounds, obviously spatial audio, which we'll talk about, and also even sometimes like I did something at South by Southwest where I was flying over New York City as though I was a bird, and they had actual fans blow on me. So anything that can make you really believe that your environment would range in the most immersive side of that spectrum. There are two real major categories for virtual reality. The first would be computer-generated 3D environments, and those are built with high-end software such as Unity and other programs, and basically it allows you to create any kind of virtual world that you would like for your user to experience. And then you have the category of 360-degree videos, which range from basically being able to take a camera out to a location, record, and then splice it together in common video editing software such as Adobe Premiere or Final Cut. So those are the two main categories of virtual reality. This is an example and something that I'm going to have you watch in the module as well. It's called One Dark Night. It was put out by the Emblematic Group, and it covers the day teenager Trayvon Martin was shot and killed by neighborhood watch volunteer George Zimmerman. It includes actual 911 recordings from witnesses, and when you're experiencing this, it's all computer generated, but the audio clips are real. And basically the user becomes transported inside a reliable virtual version of the story as an eyewitness themselves. So they can feel like they're actually experiencing this along with the characters. And there's something to be said about the computer animation element of this. It allows the user to almost always feel like they're not quite there because the computer renderings aren't perfect. And that might actually be a good thing in this kind of scenario where there's gunshots happening. It's always kind of a reminder that the person who's experiencing this is not really truly experiencing it. Then a lot of my time is spent on 360 video. And basically 360 video is a form of virtual reality, and it's also known as spherical video. So it's composed of an omnidirectional camera or several different camera lenses that must be stitched together. So in some cases the camera lenses, there are two, as you can see in the top example, there are just two, and on the cameras that you're going to use when you get here to experiment with, there will be two cameras on the Samsung Gear 360 that we'll have for you. Most lower end 360 cameras will have two of these omnidirectional lenses, but there are other high-end examples that I can show you that have multiple, like there's a GoPro rig that has 6 different GoPros on it, and those must be stitched together using specialized software that will take the edges of those circles and stitch them with the corresponding edges of the other circles. Once it is stitched together, you end up with what's called an equirectangular video, which is a flattened, kind of like a map in a 2-to-1 ratio. And you can see an example of that down below there. And basically, once you've stitched your clips together using either high-end software or proprietary software provided by a lot of these camera companies, they do a pretty good job in stitching all of them together. Then you can bring that clip into Adobe Premiere or into Final Cut Pro and edit it just like you would any other video. And generally, when you're talking about 360 video, a viewer will only see 90 degrees at any given time because that's really all that they're able to do in their peripheral vision. And so you have to kind of keep that in mind when you're filming, and I'll go over some tips in the next video. This is an example of a higher end program called AutoPano Video Pro that takes 6 different, you can see the 6 different camera angles from a GoPro rig, and then in the right you'll see the stitched version of it. And there are really high-end software programs that will take each camera angle and stitch them together frame by frame. It's a very intense process, but it produces a very, very high quality 360 video. With 360 video, it's a little bit different because you have very little control over a user's attention. Whereas before we could use leading lines or rule of thirds to help guide somebody's eye, in a 360 video you never know where they're looking at any given point. And so that becomes kind of a challenge for a storyteller to really help. You have to be very intentional in how you guide your viewers through an experience. Immersive video also allows for user agency on a range of levels. In some ways, the agency to look around within a frame or to even move around in a frame, or in the most immersive situations where they're actually interacting with items in the story, there is a lot of agency within a story, and there's more to even come with more advanced technology to interact with characters, and so there's a lot of room for different types of storytelling. Then you also have sound that can be stereo mono, or now a lot of people are experimenting with spatial audio, which allows the user to hear different sounds as they're relative to what they're experiencing in the immersive experience. So if a sound was happening way to the left, they would just hear it in their left ear, and if they turn their head, then they would suddenly start hearing it in their right ear. And so that adds to the feeling that you are actually immersed in a situation. There's a greater sense of presence, obviously, because the user is with the headset on, so they feel like they are in the story themselves. It's almost impossible not to feel part of the story, so whether you want to be or not, you are in the story, whether you're a fly on the wall or an active character. There's a great sense of presence, and there's also a greater sense of empathy for characters, situations, and events. You feel for the characters more, you really feel like you're there, experiencing it with them. So a lot of people call VR the empathy generator. Now in the next video, we're going to talk about augmented and mixed reality.